各位来宾，各位现场来宾，大家好，下午好，我是 Rocket Café 的 Rio。那我们的活动即将开始，那各位可以先入座，大概2分钟后我们活动就会开始了。谢谢各位今天的光临。那等一下主持人就是 ZUUQ 的 THG 徐子涵先生，那等一下会把我们的麦克风交给他，谢谢。
先用脚面做太粗糙，人上来这个词不要，这是自己。
各位来宾，大家好，Good afternoon。各位来宾，大家好。我们今天的活动场地是在三创生活园区，那洗手间就在出这个门口，直走之后右转到底就会看到洗手间的标示。那大概我们今天活动即将要开始，那有什么样子的问题都可以随时请教我们后面的工作人员，谢谢。
Okay, thanks for Will's introduction. Okay, this way is right. Okay, I'm TH, and good afternoon. And I hope that every one of you has already enjoyed your lunch or coffee, because this is quite a nice place, I would say, because you could grab some coffee after these events. And I'm wondering that how many of you actually have your own personal domain. So there's like, woo, a lot of you. So what kind of let's say top level domain you actually registered before? Anyone want to, give us a case? Yeah? .taipei, okay, there's one CTLD. We love Taipei, of course, we're based in Taipei. Anyone else? More exotic or interesting top level domain name? Okay, I have one because I love .info, starting from 2001 when it was just came out. So I still write a blog on .info. I'm probably the only remaining, blogger writing in Chinese right now, starting from 2001. And I'm proud to have the .info, domain as my first personal identity on the internet. So it has been 15 years, and we are glad to say that at least now it's the right time to say bye-bye, bye-bye.com, 再见了.com. So why we are hosting this panel discussion or this fireside chat today, because we have some news, we have some trends that I would like to share with the Taiwanese audience, especially when you see this place is like you have a lot of startups, and some of you are probably from, like a marketing or advertising background. So I'm wondering, or I'm asking you to think about what comes up after the bye-bye 再见了.com. So when you are saying bye.com, and then what would you have then? So that's my part for now, and I'm going to introduce you some the rundown of today's event. This event is of course sponsored by ZUUQ. So you could just use your mobile phone to just put in the URL on your browser ZUUQ.com, and you could check. We are a registrar. In case you don't know what is a registrar, you can register some personalized domain on the website. Some very nice domains on the website. Again, by typing your name, stream of first. And okay, this is me. So I'm a blogger, since 2002. Okay, that's me. And then we have some other, distinguished guests. For example, Rong. Rong is the Vice President of Global Stakeholder Engagement and Managing Director of ICANN APAC Hub. He'll be sharing with you some more, exciting, stories or with personal touch from ICANN APAC Hub. And then we have Roland. Roland Plante, is that right? Okay, sure. The Senior Vice President and CMO of Afilias. Okay, we will have him right away. And then we have Chao Jing. For those who have been in the industry long enough, I think you know this guy, Chao Jing. He's the CEO and founder of Brandmart.co. We'll give him like 5 minutes. Only 5? You want 15 minutes? Sure, you can go. You just go straight and go there. So we first invite Chao Jing to share, to give us some talks. Thanks. Oh, there's a mic there.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, TH. So I'm going to use Chinese for the next 10 minutes. So I know you're very good at Chinese, so I don't worry too much. But once again, thanks for coming all the way from the States and from Singapore to join us for this afternoon. So 转成中文讲，这样大家比较轻松一点。或者大家在讲英文，我也讲英文。但那个事实上是这样子的。所以其实今天不是说要什么开场或者怎么样，就是说自己在这个做 domain name 这一块，业界大概今年是第17年了。那转了一圈，终于回到这边来，这个好好的为我们的土地多做一些事情。那我们在2013年的时候，我们中裕的团队，我们成为了在全中国算是现在最大的品牌的一个注册商，就是 Domain Registrar， 就是一个域名的注册服务的一个单位。那我们在那个公司现在这个总共管理的名字大概有将近10万个名字，那么就是说在全中国大陆大概主要的品牌包含像阿里巴巴、新浪、京东、乐视，像这些公司名字都由我们来负责管理。那么我们觉得在这一块的经验是足以让我们把一些这么多年的营运的经验，把它转化成一般的中小企业还有一般的用户能够更方便的使用这个网域名称。 所以我们决定在今年初开始这个很低调的做这个新的品牌，品牌不见了ZUUQ 这个品牌。那我今天也不多讲为什么叫ZUUQ，因为也没什么多的理由，所以找来找去就找到一个名字叫ZUUQ。但是后来想一想，ZUUQ有很多意义，就是好像是天的安排，就会让我们能够注册到这样的一个名字。那我们也不单单孤恋一枝花我们不只说ZUUQ.com， 我们有 ZUUQ.help、ZUUQ.life、ZUUQ 各种各样的，然后用在不同的行销的场景上面。我们希望把这样的一个精神带给大家，或者这样的一个新的，把网域名称从纯粹的一个 infrastructure， 就是纯粹给大家去建网站、做邮件、做邮箱的这样的一个功能，转化到一个很有利的一个行销的工具，那就是希望把这些新的一些信息怎么用网域名称把它做成一个在这一个世代甚至下一个世代，大家现在用手机上网，或者是很多就是其实不靠我们传统的一些方式上网的时候呢，我们还是可以多多善用网域名称这样的一个 fundamental 很这样子的一个最基本的工具。那可能我把这个我的开场结束之前，我想再多说2句，就是说，网域名称这个市场，就是说刚开始的，我们从1999年的时候，这个整个网域这个本身开始所谓的民营化。那当然，待会我们的专家会跟我们分享一下所有的那种历史，就是讲古的，讲其他就是交给他们来讲。那我的一个想要分享的经验就是说，其实一开始台湾的用户是很强的，就是说你会发现在台湾的一些老的论坛或者是说跟网域名称跟投资就是 domain investment， 那我们现在叫做 domainer， 像这样子的一个这种活动，其实在台湾其实做得蛮早的。我们有认识很多朋友。就是那时候早上凌晨3、4点会等着去抢注名字，会抢注从那个注册管理单位去调出来的一些名字，就很多好的名字是被台湾人先拿走，然后就转卖给。但是那一波在1999年之后，2000年，大家就是在台湾的媒体就动不动就叫他们是网络蟑螂这样子。那这些蟑螂呢，现在都默默的都变成大蟑螂，有没有？然后大蟑螂现在都很有钱，然后都默默的在全球各地去。我们其实今天没有请他们来，那因为他心里还是有阴影就是说蟑螂跟老鼠一样，人人喊打。但是对这些人在这个业界里头都是前辈，都是算是 pioneer 那这波风气后来转到韩国去，就是在座的可能对网际网络或者是网域名称这一段大概有熟悉的。会发现中间有一波是就是韩国人占了大量的这个 .com 的或者是其他的一些网域的名，包含当初 .info 出来的时候，有很多韩国人去占。那这一波东西在大概2006到08之后呢，这个强国就起来了嘛，就是我们这个起来之后，强国崛起之后呢。大量的现在基本上的4、5、6字就是长度的这个名字的 .com 基本上都被都被注册走，并且大部分的这个注册人是我们强国的朋友们，对吧？那么这些好的资源呢，基本上如果大家了解这个市场的生态的话，可以发现他们是从厦门。到杭州、浙江一路到北京，有几群的这种市场的买家在去炒这个话题，就跟大家在炒房产是一样的所以炒网域名称跟炒房产、炒古董、炒邮票，尤其在过去2年，14年、15年，这个整个中国大陆经济在做一个所谓的盘整的时候呢，发现有一批新的游资就到了这个域名。这边来，因为股市跟这个房市的一个波动，那么导致这股游资就进到这个域名产业来，所以会发现，如果大家现在去市场去询价的话，那当然这边多讲，我们今天主要不是谈这个，但是今天就是说， 主要去谈，现在已经有一个市场的规范，所谓的规范价格。3字母的 .com 大概是5、6万，4万到6万之间的美金一个名字。那4字母的 .com 就4个字母的.com 现在是1500到2000美金左右，有一个这样的一个市场的价格出来。那在大陆这边，现在这个整个互联网发展的非常的快速，甚至很先进，非常的先进。那我们在那边也可以看到很多这个域名交易相关的平台的数字、数据等等。所以对我们来讲，怎么样把这些经验再带回来？那么我们透过ZUUQ这样的平台，从台湾，然后我们一路可能就是不是可能啊，就是要做到越南、菲律宾，就是东协的几个国家。那么我们希望把这个模式去等于是 duplicate。去复制到这些新兴的市场的这样的国家。那么，我想在座很多旧与新知都那个今天这个下午能够抽空到我们这边来，就是想说这个到底这个网域名称这个东西已经被我们玩弄了这么多年以后，到底还有什么新的这个等于是说新的火花出来？那我希望我们ZUUQ呢，在这个团队的这样的努力之下，能够有一些把这个市场教育的工作先把它先做好。那么接下来的时间，我想我就不占用多少，否则大家都听我讲股这样子就没有什么意思。那我们也祝今天参会的大家这个身体健康，万事如意，圣诞快乐。好，谢谢。
Thank you, sir. Thanks for Charles' historical remarks on the history of domainers, especially in this region. And I think I would not go that heavy, and I'll go something much more lightweight, so that every one of you could get a chance to, just look into the website and do something cool about using your own domain for your own purposes or your services or whatever. So I think there's one major trend. Just it tells the story in this picture. Because we have more than 1 billion people that are not online right now in this region. So it covers about, the East Asia region, the South Asian region. So you got India, you got Pakistan, you have Indonesia, you have Taiwan, you have Korea, Japan, all the way up to Mongolia, and probably some of the countries in Central Asia. And this is actually the highest growth potential market for anything that you want to do, especially about the internet, because there are a lot of people which are not on the internet. So what are their first contact point to your service, to your product? It could be, something on the mobile internet as, displayed in forms of apps, or it could be something like your traditional website. It could be, some of the link going through your popular messengers, which I believe that most of you use right now. And so there are a lot of people right now. And this is one of the best things and one of the worst things, because you need to go through all these social media platforms, engage with your customers, your users. So they are like the behemoth, the monsters standing behind, stand between you and your user, you and your audience. So how to get the control back? By engaging with the new GTLD, the great top-level domains. It's actually, I think, some of the coolest domains right now could be your last. It's like building your last mile to the audience. So, for example, we offer something like the O.blog, .shop, .live. You could instantly tell the stories behind that, great GTLD. So, for example, you want to, we have some other panels right outside the room. They were doing something like e-commerce. You could have a .shop right away by register your own, something of the string that you really want to choose. And it's fast, it's easy, and you don't need to wait for like hours or days to get your transaction passed through the system. So this is one of them. So you get all the benefits. This is complicated, and Roland will share more about this experience later on. So for example, I'm just telling you some more cases. For example, you need to have your own personalized domains like this. This is cool, right? thc.xyz. And I'm not sure if you still hold those old, email address from your school. Are you still using that? Maybe some of you still using that. If you have something like mit.edu, you probably will try to, you still use that. But what about the cs.nthu.edu.tw? Okay, it's hard to remember, and it doesn't tell anything about yourself. It's not personalized, so you could use the top level domain in this way. And then this is on, so you could type this ZUUQ.help. So it's not something like this. This is complicated. It's hard to remember. It's hard to tell. Why don't you have something like this if you're offering support service for your customers? It's right away. You just get the feeling of that right away. And then this, because we have a live stream right now going on the internet, why don't you have a .live for that? Why do you need to have something like this? Right? Can you remember the strings like this? Something like fbook.com, videos, and all the strings that nobody actually remember. You could have this right away. So I think it offers a lot of benefit if you really want to communicate with your audience by having a really, semantically, understandable domain name, and you could use it as a domain shortener or some service. And of course, we offer a lot of top level domains, so there are much more coming up. And we have we probably will have something like the color series of domains. If you love white, as in this, you can have something like we don't have white, right? No, but we have black, right? We have the dark green, we have dark pink, dark blue, okay. And so I think the best thing about today is that you can actually try it for yourself. And we are providing some surprises on our website, so you could later on we'll announce that information to you. Okay, thanks. So next, if you have any questions, you could just write an email to us. We could love to help you to engage with your customer if you are expanding your business, not just in Taiwan, but to some of the Southeast Asian countries, for example, Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia. We would love to partner with you on all those business activities. So then we will have Rong to share something about ICANN APAC and with a bit of personal touch. Thanks.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Rong. 我先说几句中文吧。我其实是新加坡人，那新加坡华人，中文用的不多。那来台湾呢，还是觉得就好像就去一个亲戚的家这样子。因为在新加坡我们看综艺节目看多了，都是看吴宗宪啊，然后我们听的歌都是很多台湾艺人唱的歌。能够来到台湾所以我很喜欢能够来到台湾，有机会的话呢，就希望能够常来到台湾，跟大家多见一点，多交流啊。那今天要谈一下的就是有关 ICANN 跟现在在这个域名市场里面有什么动态。那通常在新加坡我们工作都是用英文，所以就转去用英文说一下。如果说不清楚、听不懂的话，然后待会儿我们可以再解释一下哈。Okay, so I just introduced myself for Roland's benefit. I just introduced myself that I'd like to come to Taiwan if I can, and that my Mandarin actually sucks quite bad, so I'm going to switch to English to speak about my topic. Now, I'll just share a little bit about ICANN. What is this very strange organization you might have heard? ICANN stands for the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. So it's very complicated. First of all, ICANN is actually a not-for-profit organization. It is actually a platform, a place where different stakeholders around the world come together. And what does it do? This platform coordinates the unique identifier system of the internet. And what is unique identifier system? So every one of us have a name, right? My name is Rong and I'm from Singapore. I have an address. So these things are my identity. it allows you to identify who I am, and if you have my address, you can somehow contact me. The same way, so the same analogy applies on the internet. If I want to find you or your information, it has to be housed somewhere. So usually it's housed on a website, right? So you have to have like a website name. And websites are easy for people to remember, so you key in a website on your computer or device. How does the device find the corresponding server where your information is stored? It is through an IP address. So the domain name system essentially does that translation for you. When you type a domain name, your device converts it into an IP address, you find the corresponding server, and it brings that information back to you. This needs to be unique. These domain names and IP addresses needs to be unique. No two people can share the same domain name, because if it does, the system doesn't work. I wouldn't know how to go and find Facebook.com, for example. Now, no two people in the world can share the same IP address as well, because if you have two different servers holding the same IP address, you have the same problem. So these unique identifier systems needs to be coordinated in a single platform around the world, and that's being done at ICANN. So this is the first thing I need to share with you about this domain name system and how it works. Now, the second pretty important thing, you've just heard Ching and TH shared about these names like registry and registrar. What are these things? So registries essentially are the organizations or companies that that operate top-level domains, .com, .net, .org, and so on. And later you'll hear me talk a little bit more about many others like .info and so on. And registrar are the ones that bring these top-level domains to you, to the market. This is a very simple way of saying it, but that's how essentially this system works. So for people to be able to register your own domain name, usually you reach out to a registrar who will help you register your domain name, and the registry would note who owns which domain name that way. So there is a kind of system. Now, the background behind this, why am I explaining it? Is because traditionally, long time ago, we are all familiar with .com, .net, .org, and the traditional generic top-level domains, or GTLDs, there are about 22 of them. So com, net, org, including like info and .mobi, they belong to this 22. The other top-level domain that we are also familiar with are country codes. In Taiwan, it's .tw, in China, it's .cn, in Singapore, it's .sg. So this is another batch of top-level domains. So all of us, when we register a website, we have to have a top-level domain at the end. Now, in 2011 at ICANN, what happens in ICANN is there is this global community that will discuss what do we do about the future of the internet in the unique identifier space. So the community discussed for a long time and decided that as the internet grows, the domain name space must grow with it, because we have now about 3.5 billion or 4 billion people who are using the internet, but there are about 300 over million domain names all over the world. So that's about 10% rate. Now, if we have another 1 billion people, we're expecting another billion people to come online. Is the current infrastructure on the domain name system, is it enough to support this expansion? So the short answer of it, at least in the IP address space, was clearly no. IP address, you might have heard of IP version 4 and IP version 6. We need to move to IP version 6 because IP version 4 has run out. And in that same mindset, domain names wise, if you restrict only to 22 traditional generic top-level domains, then you're limiting people's use of it. And also there's another restriction, which is that of language. Now we're registering and it all has to be in like Latin-based characters. We call them ASCII in technical terms. And that's also restricting the next billion people coming online, because those who can come online already can use English. But what about those people like my dad, who doesn't really use English? And when he started using the internet, basically he said, this internet is pretty good, but you need to know how to spell. And that's really a restriction for it as well. So the community at ICANN decided that we needed to expand the domain name space. And what happened was the launch in 2011, the launch of the new generic top-level domain program, or new GTLD program. Fast forward that to today, we have delegated now over 1,000 new GTLDs. What this means is we are no longer restricted to the original 22.com.net.org, but there are more opportunities. And what are these opportunities? It means that people can now register for a dot location, like .London, for example, or .Taipei. You can also register that a place or a name in your own language or script. So there are like .Cyrillic script, .Arabic script, .Chinese, for example, in Chinese script. So these offer the ability for people to come online without a restriction on the domain name. So the purpose of this program is really to allow the expansion of the internet's unique identifier system. And the purpose of the program itself is to promote competition, choice, and innovation. So when you have a lot of different types of domain names on the market, it creates that competition. And it creates choice, because people feel that, okay, if I want to host, for example, saying, I want to host live programs, I can use a .live top-level domain for myself. Or if I run like a restaurant, I can use a .restaurant domain name for myself instead of a traditional domain name. Or if my target market is clearly for the mainland Chinese market, why don't I just use IDN, a Chinese local script domain name? Because that's my target market. So it's very clear, allows people to have that choice. And the third aim of it is to have innovation, because then people will start thinking, oh, what are new ways I can use domain names for? So these are the aims of the background of this, what's happening in the domain name space. And it also has implications for us as users of the internet, as companies, or as startups, or people who've been using the internet for a long time. Now, the last point I'll just talk about is, so going forward, how does this affect all of us? Traditionally, when you think about, we're in a startup place, or share a startup example. So traditionally, if I'm going to launch my new brand or my new product, for startups, what we do when we speak to them is to advise them to say, have you thought of your domain name already? Right? Why? Because if you didn't, and you try and you launch a product without buying a domain name first, then someone realizes that a product is very good, they buy the domain name, then you end up having to pay a lot to go and get that name back from yourself, right? So traditionally, that's something that you have to think about very much. Now, when you have this new GTLD program, it allows you to be more creative about how you want to use that domain name. So it's something that you can think about targeting a certain domain name towards a target market. That's one. And also the other thing also, like TH referred to, was with regard to being more innovative and thinking about how you can use domain names to market. Now, is it using a domain name that's easy to remember that would allow you to reach and engage your stakeholders better or your customers better? Or would it be something that allows people to come onto your website so that they can access all the information? These are different inherently. So you have to think about those things in your business model when you're thinking about using domain names. One last thing I'll talk about, really, in this space, it is a very new space because there's so many choices. Now, traditionally, I'll share one story. So when we launched the new GTLD program, not everyone agrees that this is a good thing. It's, one analogy was, I already have one ringtone on my phone. How do I use like 2 or 3 ringtones, right? It doesn't really make sense. Now, But one response to this was, you know, in the days of candy bar phones, when we were all using candy bar phones, and you read newspapers, you see ads selling ringtones. Do you know that the ringtone selling industry was worth millions of dollars? Even though everyone was supposed to use only one ringtone. Now, a similar analogy to that as well. Next, this is a very good example. People like to actually have more than one ringtone. If my wife calls me, it's this ringtone. If my mom calls me, it's that ringtone. If my customer calls me, it's that ringtone. So I know how to differentiate. So again, this is another analogy for you to think about when thinking about using domain names as a tool. Now, the third thing is also, how do I know what domain name to use? This is something that we need to learn how to innovate and to think about in the future. For example, I like to have ice cream. So I go to an ice cream parlor, and usually there are like about 20 flavors, right? Already that's too many to choose from. So you get to taste like 2 or 3, and then you choose the one that you like, and you buy a scoop or 2. Now in the new GTLD program, now what happening to you is, you're walking into the ice cream parlor and ta-da, you have 1,000 over domain names. How are you going to taste all of it? So to think about this space is to be able to attract or to find a way to let your customers be able to try out or taste that new GTLD that you want to use. And that will allow you to innovate and reach out to them. And that's something that I hope that we can all think about. So these are a few things that I'd like to highlight that's happening in this space. And one very important thing to take away with I'd like to share is in this community, in the startup community or tech community, we always think to ourselves, what's the next big thing? What's going to be the big thing that replaces what we did before? I wouldn't really say that the new GTLD program will replace traditional GTLDs. It's a very similar analogy to when wood was replaced by coal, coal was replaced by oil, and everyone asked, what's going to replace oil? Is it going to be solar? Is it going to be wind? Is it going to be what? And the answer is actually everything. Solar, wind, every single kind of renewable energy combined will replace the oil industry. Likewise, in the age of the internet, we were thinking about what's going to be the next big thing. It might actually be everything. And we're talking about the days and the age of the Internet of Things, which basically is Internet of Everything. So instead of thinking, oh, what's going to be the next big thing, I'm going to chase for that, think about the different things that's happening on the Internet and leverage these tools, these new developments for your own market and for your own business. So that's something I hope that is a development that people are interested in. And I hope that we can also facilitate from my office that's based in Singapore covering this region, that we can work with you to keep you updated on what's happening at ICANN. And the other last point I want to make is just that for us, it's very important for stakeholders to know what's happening, what's being developed in ICANN, because what has to be developed in ICANN, the evolution of the internet is shaped by our stakeholders. So I hope to be able to work with you and to share with you about the developments at ICANN, so that when we need stakeholders from this region to contribute to the developments, we can do that. So let's keep in touch. Thank you very much.
John 很棒，对不对？Now, John talked about the example of GTLD. I remember very vividly about one domain that is delicious. Do you remember that? The bookmarking services, which was bought up by Yahoo, del.icio.us. That's the first time that I felt the power of a single domain, because you're talking about ice cream, different flavors and choices. So I remember that delicious. That's one of the good point. Yeah. So next we will have Roland, and he's going to share more about about as a registry, as an industrial veteran, and as a lot of things. So you have your mic there, yeah.
Testing.
Well, thank you very much all for coming. This is fascinating, and Zerong's description of what ICANN does, which is really complicated, was the clearest exposition of what ICANN's all about that I've ever heard. So thank you for that. I've been in the business for 15 years now. I've gone to 52 ICANN meetings. I'm starting to understand it. So I want to impart a little bit of history also, and some of my thoughts on where I think the industry is going and how I think I can help you. So, if I could do that. First of all, has anybody heard of a company called Afilias? Okay, thank you, Jake. Thanks to Ganja Brandman, that's great. No, I'm not surprised that you haven't, and there's probably no real need for you to do that, but I want to give you a quick introduction to something that Rong talked about, which is registries and registrars. So let's go to what my business is all about, which is being a registry operator and registry services provider. So what happens with every single individual top-level domain, .com, .net, .org, info, each one of these has an entity that is responsible for keeping track of all the names. Each one of these has to have a database that has a unique set of names for every single .com, and those .coms have to match an IP address. Same for net, same for org, same for info, same for all of these top-level domains that you have. And what my company does is maintain those databases, okay, for a wide range of top-level domains. And beyond that, when you type in a name in one of the domains that we manage into your browser, and your ISP hasn't seen that recently, they'll come to us, they'll come to my servers, and we will tell them the IP address that website or email or whatever is at. So we both maintain the master database, and then we operate these, what we call name servers, which are authoritative for the TLDs, for the top-level domains that we support. So it's not brain surgery, but it is rather specialized technology, and it has to operate at scale for these top-level domains to be available all the time, which is what you as internet users expect. You expect that when you dial up a domain name and you know that there's a website there, that you're going to get it, and you don't have to wait very long for it. So we do top-level domain registry management. We support about 21 million names out of the 320-odd million second-level names that there are on the internet today, which sounds like a pretty tiny percentage. But VeriSign, that runs the ComNet registry, manages about 50%, almost 50% of the domain names just in Com and Net, and the rest is sprinkled around to companies like myself and country code operators. So we run generic domains, or GTLDs, like Infomobi and Pro, and we also do service provision, which is we don't own the domain, we don't set the policy, we don't do the marketing or the sales work, but we do all the technology. We do maintain the master database, and we maintain these name servers and so forth for a host of other top-level domains, including .org, .asia, .aero, which is pretty small, .post, which is smaller, and .xxx. In addition, we support a number of country codes. These are countries that want to have world-class technology supporting their country code domain, but that don't necessarily have that kind of capability in-house or in-country. So it's India, St. Lucia, Gibraltar, the Seychelles, Antigua and Barbuda, Montenegro, Bermuda, Belize, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Mongolia. So all of the authoritative work, whenever you call up an address in any of those top domains, you're going to come through our servers. We're also a pretty big player in this new top-level domain space that Rong talked about a few minutes ago. And TH talked about the colors. We're the registry operator, which means we own these new top-level domains, all the way from Yidong to all these colors: pink, black, red, blue. We own .kim. We're running .organic, .vote and voto, .bet, .pet, which we have a pretty good hope for, .lgbt, which is a great TLD, .lotto. All of these are in the process of they're all available now, but this is a kind of a small example of the breadth of things that are now available to you as you try to figure out what name you want to do business under on the internet. Because at the end of the day, most of your business is going to be done on the internet, and certainly you're going to get started on the internet. So if you're servicing, for example, the LGBT population worldwide, and you're in a .com name, who knows what your business is? But you can have your own name, whatever that is, in .lgbt, and it instantly communicates to that audience that your site is specifically for that community. Okay? Same for .organic. Same for all of these. They all have a semantic meaning to anybody who sees your website name, and it can help you to brand your particular product or service in a particular category. So when somebody's looking for you, they know what they're going to get when they get there. Okay? And they've come intentionally for this kind of service and not by accident. Okay? We're also a registry service provider in these new top-level domains. .vegas is running on our systems. .adult, .ngo and ONG, .global, .irish, and lots more here. But the other category of things that are running on our systems that's pretty important, I'm going to spend a little more time on this in a minute, is many global brands are getting their name as a .brand top-level domain. Okay, so they're using, instead of a .com, they'll use .alipay. Okay, instead of a .net, they'll be in .nokia. In the last round, in this 2012 round that Rong talked about, there were about 600 major companies around the world, including Samsung, that applied for their brand name as a top-level domain. And you may scratch your head and say, well, what the heck did I do that for? I'm going to tell you why they did it, and it'll make a lot more sense to you when I get finished. So one of the parts of the pitch for this meeting was, what's coming after .com? And a lot of people would say, well, what do we need except .com? Everybody's at .com, right? You've got to have a .com to have a business. But what we've seen over the last 15 years or so is that .com and .net are actually losing market share. They're growing, but they're losing market share as the market gets bigger. So if you look at their share of the generic top-level domain space, which doesn't include country codes, they've been pretty steady at, seriously, 85%. All the way up to recently when these new top-level domains started to launch. Okay? If you look at just the total market, okay, you can see a decline that started about midway through 2007, and it's been pretty steady. They've lost like 13 share points. So if in the market the size of today, if they had those 13 share points, they'd be like 44 million names bigger than they are today. And they're at 140 million names already. Okay? So we are eventually going to get to a post.com world. I don't think anybody in the marketing community would tell somebody to abandon their .com and move on. Every company that has a .com should keep it and should keep using it. But there are lots and lots of new ways to present your business. And particularly if you're a startup, you shouldn't be. I was at CES last year in Las Vegas, and I stopped at this booth that had this really long .com name, and I can't remember it now. I couldn't remember it when I walked away from the place. And so I talked to the CEO. It was a startup, and I said, "Why do you have this horrible name?" And he said, "Well, we were sitting around having some beers one night, and we're trying to name the company, and then we started putting strings into GoDaddy to see if we could, what kind of a .com we could get." And they ended up with this monster thing that no one could remember, okay? The name of your company is critically important to your long-term success, okay? And you shouldn't be relying on what's left in .com to name your company. You should pick a name that evokes what products you're selling, what values you have, what benefits you bring to your target customers, and then you should look for a top-level domain that gets you in the right category, okay? And all of these new top-level domains are essentially greenfield places to develop your business now. There's not a huge amount of awareness, but the awareness is coming. And if you put your best company name next to a descriptive top-level domain, you've got the most powerful marketing combination you can possibly get. So don't just stick whatever you can in front of a com or a net. Go for something that's meaningful to your customers. So I'll give you a little bit of the history, a little bit a little bit deeper look at the history here on where these things came about, because there were actually two different rounds of top-level domain assignments prior to the one that we did in 2011 and 2012. In 2000, when I first got into this business, there was the so-called proof of concept round, which had 44 applications in it and 7 strings were awarded. .info was awarded then, .aero, biz, co-op, museum, name, and pro. Now you've probably seen some info names. You've definitely seen some biz names. You may have seen some pro names. I doubt you've seen a museum. Have you seen a museum? This is still in business. Okay, there are some museums that are using a .museum. But the question here was, oh my God, if we expand the root, will the sky fall? Okay, and the answer was no, because the root's pretty robust. So in 2004, having not seen the sky fall now for 2 or 3 years, ICANN said, okay, well, let's see if we can do something to serve a specific community. And that's when Asia went out, .cat, which is not about Grumpy Cat or cat pictures. This is about the Catalan language community in Spain. Jobs, Mobi, Post. There were 2 apps for travel, and XXX, and those were all approved at the time. The ones that are in caps here are just ones that are running on our systems. And during that same period of time, there were some non-ICANN TLDs that were also put into the root. And those were .eu, .me for Montenegro. When Yugoslavia split up, there was Montenegro and Serbia, and .rs for Serbia. And then in 2012, we started tracking that. In 2014, the applications were due in 2012. It took about 18 months for those to get evaluated by ICANN, and they actually started launching in early 2014, and there's like 1,209 of them that have launched so far. So there are 18 launches prior to the most recent round, which is different business models, different teams, different investment levels, all that kind of thing. And you can sort of see the different investment strategies in the sizes of these domains. So info, which Afilias won back in 2000, we launched it in 2001, has millions of great sites worldwide. You can see the history here. We've had some spikes, some significant growth, some fall off, some significant growth, some fall off. Info is now at about 5.5 million total registrations, and there are probably 2.5 million unique sites in .info worldwide now. It's been this is the most successful new TLD ever launched so far, and it's among the world's most secure TLDs now, because we watch this thing like a hawk. The other big thing that happened here is .org. You don't see registries move from one provider to another very often. But Rong talked about ICANN's role in building competition in the registry space. And back in 2002, when VeriSign was trying to expand or extend its contracts for ComNet and org, because it was running all 3 of those at the time, ICANN said, look, you're going to have Com and one of these other ones, but you have to spin out the 3rd one. So VeriSign and ICANN decided that org should be spun out. There was a worldwide competition for this. There were 11 global bidders. Afilias teamed up with the Internet Society. So we would do the technology, the Internet Society would run policy and so forth for .org. And that turned out to be the winning bid, and we've now grown that from 2.6 million names to over 11 million names. This has been another great success on the internet at the registry level. Of course, you guys never knew that, because when we moved .org, 2.6 million names back in 2002 to our systems, .org users couldn't tell the difference. Okay, it was done very smoothly, it was done very carefully, it was done over a period of time, so that end users would not have any disruption of service. So the latest round was 8 years in the making, from 2004 to 2012. It takes that long for the ICANN community to come together on something as complex as a new TLD round, especially one where it was expected that an unlimited amount of applications might be coming in, okay? This was a lot more formal than either of the prior rounds. The prior rounds, they got bunches of applications, and You know, they charged $50,000 a piece for them, and then the ICANN board kind of sat in a room and decided which ones to launch. This one, the 2012 round, was designed in such a way that if you met the qualifications, you had a decent plan, and you had technology that was proven, you would get your top-level domain. And that's what's happened. There's a much more formal applicant guidebook, detailed stuff. The application itself was $180,000. So that cut down on some of the applications for sure. But when you think about this from a marketing standpoint, a $180,000 application to provide a global marketing platform that's unique in the world and will never be replaced, it's a pretty low number. So the current TLD round is very popular. 1,209 of them have launched so far. They're in different categories, generics like .club, .site, .loan, .vip, .realtor, some of the ones we also heard about earlier this morning. Number of cities and geos got their TLDs, including Taipei, you know, Berlin, London, New York. The New Zealanders got in on it with .kiwi. And there are a bunch of other ones, Helsinki and Istanbul and so forth. Then some communities, which had a much higher bar to meet technically and from a representation standpoint. .pharmacy, .eco, .bank are three of the community ones, very restricted and tailored to meet the needs of those communities. And then we also talked about the internationalized domain names, Chinese script, Russian script, Korean script, Arabic script, and so forth. So as the internet evolves, folks that don't use English as their primary language or may not know any of it can still interact on the internet. And the last category, and the one I'm going to talk a little bit more about, is .brands, okay, like Samsung, which applied for both .Samsung and its name in Korean. I'm pretty sure that's its name in Korean. So why do we even have new top-level domains? Well, the first reason is .com is crowded. It has 127 million names in it. And you know, this story about this guy at CES, it's happening all the time. It's happening in this room. You guys are sitting down at night looking for a name that's available in .com. Don't tell me you're not, okay? Think about the name of your company first and then figure out the top-level domain afterward. So demand's increasing. We heard about the worldwide increases, especially the billion that are in this part of the world. And these descriptive terms are a lot more intuitive. So if you had to guess Andersons.com and Andersons.pharmacy, you know, which one's the pharmacy? You know, you would know that from the name. And we all know about counterfeiting on the internet and what a problem that is. So let's talk a little bit about .brands and why people would want .brands, okay? We have options now. There's Barclays, there's .swat, there's I think this is the Australian Football League. Taipei has a number of sites already in it. So the new GTLDs, the whole round itself, with the generics and the cities and the communities and so forth, was an innovation. But I think .brands is a significant disruptor. I mean, my personal belief is that 5 years from now, every major company on the planet is going to be doing business out of their .brand. Yes, they'll have their .com, but that will be something that they don't use a whole lot of, and they'll be using their .brand for all of their marketing stuff. So there were 82 tech brands that applied. There were 71 financial brands that applied. All of these are global leaders and from all over the world. I mean, State Bank of India, UBS, Vanguard. It's not just US companies. 72 media brands. These are brands that we're all familiar with. 49, almost 50 online brands, including Alibaba, Zappos, Bing, and 19 luxury brands, which have a particular reason for having their own .brand, because all of these guys are being counterfeited on the internet like mad, and they need some kind of a defense against that, and their .brand can be that for them. So why do they do this? I will tell you that there are 4 reasons, 4 significant reasons why a company would want its own .brand. The first one is you have control over it. Okay, if you own .Hermes, for example, which runs in our systems, you control who can have a site there, and you can keep out all the criminals. Okay, unlike a .com or a .info, where pretty much anybody can have one, and they can dress up your brand so that it's not quite an infringement, but it's essentially an infringement. Okay, you have 100% control over what goes on here and who has an address in your .brand. You also can control what they do with that site. You can control the content. You know, GTLD operators today don't control content. You know, you can put whatever you want on a .info site, and if it's illegal in your country, you can be prosecuted for it. But the registry operator itself is not responsible. Okay. But let's say you're Rolex. If any of you ever looked for a Rolex on the internet, you can find lots of Rolexes on the internet. The question is, which ones are real ones? Okay, and you can't tell. But if Rolex applied for their own .Rolex top-level domain, only authorized Rolex dealers would be allowed to have an address in .Rolex, and Rolex could completely control what those dealers did on that site. So they couldn't do anything on that site that would damage the brand Rolex. Okay, so that means you can control the entire customer experience. Everything that happens in the entire domain, you can control. And the result of that is increased confidence in you, which is something every major brand is looking for in the internet. The next real benefit is security. Okay, everybody wants more security on the internet, and .brands are a way to get that for your business. So you will have no criminal registrants in your brand, because you control them all, and you can control who's allowed in. You'll have no criminal activity in your brand, because you can control all the content. You won't have any spam, no counterfeiting. And this is especially important for luxury brands, because if somebody types in, you know, Joe's Jeweler.Rolex, they know they're going to an authorized Rolex place. They're not going to some phishing site. They're not going to some spam site. They know where they're going to go. And DNSSEC, which is a technical security capability that's available in every single top-level domain. In fact, every domain has to offer it, although not every second level in those domains. But as a .brand, you probably have DNSSEC protection, and that provides additional support. So what's the result of that? Increased confidence in your brand. So the third benefit is branding itself. It's an easy to remember address. TH had some great examples, you know, .help and so forth. And Barclays, there's no guessing if Barclays Bank is going to be on a .com, a co, a CN, a TW, whatever. It's going to be at .Barclays, okay? And you can search for stuff in .Barclays and find real .Barclays stuff, real Barclays stuff. So your name will be in every internet reference. So all of your email addresses will have your brand in it, not some random string that's irrelevant to your business. It's going to have your brand in it. And you're not wasting space on non-identifying descriptors like com or net. So consumer learning is going to build on this brand awareness. You already have generally a high level of awareness in the brand, or at least these major companies do, and they can build on that and leverage that with a .brand. So it's easier to find and remember your brand. And then the last thing, here's some examples. Here's Bradesco, which is this is a Spanish bank, is using prime.bradesco in their Facebook stuff. You can see what's going on here with BNP Paribas Bank, which is the number 2 biggest bank in the world, the French bank, using that in getting that in SEO. So the last benefit, though, is flexibility. Okay. So the first part of flexibility is you get to control how you organize your .brand. If you organize your business by geography, then you can set all your second levels up to be geographically oriented. If you set it all up by product line, then you can set all your second levels up to be product lines. Just like you have the flexibility to organize your own company the way you thought it would be best managed, you can set up your top level domain to reflect the same organization scheme. Okay? So you can see Faye, the Greek yogurt company, which has .Faye, is setting up their second levels as a geographic identifier. And the last thing I would submit to you is that a .brand gives you unlimited space for IoT applications, okay? So with the Internet of Things, there are going to be literally gazillions of units of things that need to be tracked and that need an address somewhere so you can track it. You're not going to get that kind of flexibility in a com or net or an info or whatever. But if you have your own .brand, you have unlimited address space now to put all that stuff wherever you want to put it, at the second, third, fourth, fifth level, and so forth. So I think that helps future-proof your business by helping you in a .brand. So I'm almost done. For another minute. The latest round has about 27 million names in it. This is just the 2012 round, and you can see it's grown pretty steadily since then. I don't think we're going to see another round before 2018, maybe 2020. But I expect that there'll be over 10,000 applications in that round. And most of those will be .brands. So we'll get even more detailed instructions from ICANN. And if you haven't applied for one of these already, or if you're just curious about it, you should track this pretty closely and see what these 600 .brands are doing. So I hope that gave you a better sense of why anybody would go for a .brand and some of the benefits of these new top-level domains.
So I think you must got a lot of questions right now, a lot to ask for all the panelists who have demonstrate their professions. Okay, so now we are going to have a fireside chat style of chat. So if you have any question right now, you could just think about it for all the things that we have talked about and ask the panelists right away. So we'll be sitting here. Yeah, so anyone would like to volunteer the first round of questions, because we have this rare chance in Taiwan, especially in Taipei, to have all the wonderful panelists right here. Or you have questions for
myself?
Of course, if you want to say something, but keep it short, please.
Actually, just to add what Roland just shared, I think it's great, fascinating. The examples of the evolution of namespace over time in the past, let's say 15, 16 years. I just did a very quick Google check. We do have one museum, registrant here, which is the Taipei Municipal Art Museum. It's at tfam.museum. So it's the official museum address for the Taipei Museum, 台北市立美术馆。Yeah, so not a question, but information to share. Right?
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. So I think there's one gentleman. Rather, I'll pass the mic to you.
I would like to ask Jarong and both Jarong and Roland. So if I want to cooperate with your organization and your company, like how do we do that? How do we do so?
Okay, so basically in terms of ICANN, and I didn't go into much detail just now because it's a little bit complicated. So there are a few ways to quote unquote cooperate or work with ICANN. The first is that ICANN as a platform, as I mentioned just now, like how Roland was describing, it took 8 years in the making for this current new GTLD round, is that the community in ICANN consists of different stakeholders, governments, businesses, registries, registrars, even representatives of end users as well. So for yourself, if you want to be involved in the work that is ongoing, which is actually, Roland mentioned about the question of when is going to be the next new GTLD round. For the next round to happen, we are conducting currently a whole bunch of reviews regarding the current round. So only after we complete the reviews, which then would help to refine the process for the next round, then we can launch the next round. That's the current thinking. So in order to do that, the community must come together to work on the reviews. And this is one of those things that you could be involved in. So that's one amongst a few other issues related to the unique identifier space that has some ongoing work. Now, as for working with the ICANN organization, so I am a staff with the organization. So the organization, what we do is we facilitate for our community members to participate. So that's one area. Other areas include basically providing service to our registries and registrars. But specifically for my office and for me, I lead the team which is to work with the stakeholders to facilitate your participation. So what I can do is keep in touch with you. I can share updates about what's going on right now, and that where you can let me know what areas you're interested in. Then we will find a way to help to facilitate your participation by sharing with you the various information that's happening. So these are some areas that we can work together on. So I'm hoping not just to work with you only, but with anyone else who is in Taiwan. I'll just share one very short observation, because we had in July this year, Asia Pacific Regional Internet Governance Forum that was held here in Taipei. And it's a little bit surprising to me that the number of local participants from Taiwan is actually quite low. And it only shows the community here might not be very aware of what's happening in this space. And the internet space is expanding. I've been working in this space for 3.5 years. So I wouldn't say it's exciting, but some people would say that it's very exciting. And I think it's important for our region to participate in it, especially when most of the next billion people will coming online will come from our region. So I hope to be able to work with you on that. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of how you might work with Afilias, I think it depends on what you want to do to some extent. I think in terms of the next round, applying for a new top-level domain, you guys will all have your businesses launched by then. So the way to probably leverage this for the folks in this room is to take a look at the existing top-level domains today. Talk to TH, he runs a registrar. The registrars are sort of the retail arm of the business, and work through what the best name is for your company. I mean, you're already going to know your company name. I don't think he can help you with that. But what he can help you with is finding a domain extension, a GTLD that fits your space. And you can look through the list anyway, and it'll be pretty intuitive to you right from the start. In terms of the next round, because some of you may grow big enough that you want your own .brand by the time the next round starts. And if that seems attractive to you, then I think the best thing to do is probably work with Ching directly. You know, Ching runs a great company that understands the whole branding aspect and how brands work on the internet, and how to work with registry operators such as Afilias to make this happen. Because what will happen is you'll need to submit a pretty detailed application to ICANN. You'll need some help with a number of elements of that. One of those is policy and business plans and so forth. That kind of stuff Ching can help with because he's been through this. He went through these wars in the last round. And the second major piece is going to be the technical piece, where you'll need to illustrate to ICANN that you have a technical support system underneath your top-level domain that does not jeopardize the security or stability of the internet. And that one, you know, we can help with quite a lot because that's what we do for a living. So it depends on where you are in your process. You know, getting a great descriptive top-level domain from the current stable, I think is something that you should chat with the TH about. But applying for your own brand or your own .brand or your own .generic even, that's something that I think you're best off to start with Ching, and then we'll work together on it.
Ching, you have something to say?
I'll probably just echo what Roland just shared. On the business side, we really hope that you tell us what type of names that you like. probably will put together a business plan, probably will help you, to raise a fund, and then we can do a joint partnership on a deal that we can work with Afilias as a partner, and then when the next round starts, we can submit the bid to ICANN. That's one business side, a kind of a long-term one. On the participation side on ICANN, what I would suggest is that, this great organization, they have 3 meetings a year. You can, if you have money, go there. You've got sponsorship, you can go there, or you can, participate remotely. They have great, one of the best things that ICANN does for the community as a whole, internet community as a whole, is that, great facility that anyone on earth can join the meeting through, just a browser. You can participate, you can speak out, send questions. And the other thing is that if you're really interested in saying that you're a business owner, you run a business, and then you can participate. ICANN's group, there is a business constituency group that address business needs. There are groups like intellectual property rights owner group. You can join them and submit your voices there. So there's a lot of working groups and and various other groups that you can also participate through meetings and also mailing lists. Something like that would be very helpful.
Sure, I'll add up point to that because as regard to APR archive that Jiarong just told us, I think that's why we are hosting this kind of a panel discussion here, because I think the vibrancy of Taiwanese startup cultures and communities are ready, are actually much more, ready to, tackle this kind of issue, to understand the issue behind. And I think this is the first of the series of events we're going to host after today. And I'm sure that some of you might have even more questions. 所以如果你有中文，用中文讲也没有问题，就问一下台上的讲者。没有，各位。
I'll probably throw one question, and then maybe
sure.
not just to you guys, but all of
the
audience in the room. The question is as the following. So at the end of Roland's presentation about controlling destiny of your brand using .brand, and you can have, for example, like USA.fetch or like home.barclay. It's interesting to see this development. We talk to brand owners all the time at this stage because, for example, let's say if I'm HSBC, 如果我是像汇丰银行, then HSBC need to register hsbc.com.tw, hsbc.cn, all the country code. So the purpose, one of the main purpose for HSBC is to have their .brand at the far right of the URL address. So .hsbc at the very end, and then in the middle between www and their brand, they can insert or input the like say USA or China or Taipei, any geo names or any names that they want. So that means that if we're talking about country codes, this could kind of create a kind of a competition with the country code, meaning that maybe one other benefit for HSBC is to drive their costs down, because at the eventually they won't have to maybe they won't have to register those country code because they've already managed their country wide presence through their .brand TOD. So I'm throwing in questions, and maybe people can place a bet or do a wild guess here. What do you think? If you're a .brand, what would you do in 5 years' time? Dropping the CCTOD, or what else will you do?
Do you need a mic? Yeah.
Hello everyone, this is Rio from Rocket Café, and if the .brand domain can help the brand doing better in search engine optimization, if not, is there anyone who will talk to the search engine to resolve the problem? Because maybe I have a lot of effort building my brand on top of the top brand domain. It would be better for us to, if I can use this kind of domain to do better in search engine optimization, that would be better. And the second question, and because there's still a lot of people don't think that URL other than .com is a correct URL. So it is a hard time to communicate with the end consumer about the new kind of domain name. So is there any plan to subsidize the enterprise to do the communication with their end consumer about the new kind of domain name? Thank you.
So the first question is about SEO of the GTLD. The second would be about the how to communicate based on your experience, probably from APAC region or the US. Jiarong, we would like, or yeah.
The first question about SEO stuff is a really, really important one. And that gets to something that in the community we call universal acceptance. Okay, that's, do browsers accept these things? When you put an email address in, is it going to say, no, give me a valid email? That kind of stuff. We're still seeing that a little bit. And I expect that we'll see that for a while as folks that do not upgrade their software, either their email clients or their browsers or whatever, run into things that are unfamiliar to those things. When we first launched Info back in 2001, we ran into this everywhere. Because first of all, things were hard-coded to accept only 3 characters or less, and Info had 4. So we ended up calling a bunch of CTOs to say, dude, this is a legitimate top-level domain and your people are trying to get through to it and you're blocking it. And then they'd be all apologetic and they'd fix it eventually. But we're seeing still a little bit of that with these new top-level domains, because now we have domains like .photographer. It's pretty long. It's very descriptive, but it's pretty long. So people have got to upgrade their systems and so forth. The second aspect of this has to do with learning about what search engines are going to do with these top-level domains. And we're all still learning about that. We belong to, I think you guys belong to the Domain Name Association, which is an industry group with registries and registrars and so forth in it. And we're right now in the process of commissioning a study to find out how search engines deal with these new top-level domains and whether a new top-level domain helps, does nothing, or hurts search engine rankings. That study is now being designed, and we should have it finished and out, I would guess, within the next 6 months for sure. I don't know what it's going to say. I'm certainly hopeful that it either does no harm or it does a little bit of good. I'm thinking that because, other preliminary research I've seen on this suggests that a descriptive top-level domain that matches the content in a site does a little bit better than just the content in the site in some random term. Okay, because then the whole thing fits together. And apples to apples, one gets a little bit of an edge. We're going to test that hypothesis with the DNA study, the Domain Name Association study. And if you hear about it, it'll mean it was good. And if you don't, maybe we didn't do the research right just yet. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'll just add on the point on search engine optimization. In this part of the world, the Asia region, I think apart from Singapore, most other countries in Asia would search on the search engine in their own language. Am I right? So you're thinking about the top-level domains that are in the local script, and that describes the thing that you are searching for. Then naturally the search engine optimization will occur because you're already naturally gravitating to the same description. Now the challenge, of course, is to get everyone to understand and know that these things are in existence, and of course it's new. So one thing that's happening from the ICANN side is we're trying to raise awareness of this issue, that there are all these over 1,000 new top-level domains that's out there. And for search engines and programmers, can you update your software so that you can accept and use these? Now, it's a chicken and egg issue, because if there are not enough coming up, nobody knows that that's there. So the question is really about what is the outlook that's going to happen. It's the same issue with, if we are in the startup community, that's what we're looking at. What's going to happen in the next 5 years? It's the same for every single kind of market, be it if you're talking about energy or in shares or in any other market. So this is what we need to think about. Now, so if you're talking about search engines and talking about this region, that you always be searching your own language, I would say that that's really the way to go, because your top-level domain in the local script will naturally describe what you're supposed to be doing. So that's the one thing I want to add.
I'm putting two scenarios here to Rio's questions here, asking about the SEOs. One is I came across a couple companies through the .brand launch process and the application process. One thing that I found is that the determination of the CIO is very important. So the determination, or it actually started from owning the names first, and then we will talk about the migration, the transition, how the SEO will impact the performance of the website or the search engine. I have a couple customers in China where they don't really care about Google, search, because Google doesn't work there. So what they will need to do is just to call Baidu or to other main search engines, just make sure that, hey, if I launch this, you have to, recognize. So there's no, back and forth. It's just a couple phone calls. Then talking about phone calls, right? Phone calls are now very popular here because the leaders of this country call the other leader of the other country. Let's say on a very wild guess now, or a very wild out of the blue scenario is now .com is no longer run by the US company. Let's say in 5 years time, okay, the president from a great country decided to hand over the registry to another great country that has walls, right? Because VeriSign is a public listed company, so they can in the shares of VeriSign can be traded, and people can buy shares in the public market. So let's say back in down in the 5 years, 10 years down the road, would you still use .com, or would you prefer to have your brand make sure that this is quote unquote outside the wall? I'm just throwing hypothesis. It's very unlikely at this point to happen because of the series of contract that's being placed. But things can change overnight through a phone call.
I was planning to invite some of the delegates from the Congress. At least they are not here. Otherwise, they will put your idea into their something like strategy plan.
Or do we have to drive this to happen through a community?
I think that the cases been mentioned by the concern been mentioned by Rio. I think I would like to ask a question about Rocket.cafe. Why were you choosing .cafe? Oh, you have one more?
No. I wanted to answer the second part of your question, which is who's responsible for advertising these things? Okay, because nobody's aware of .red. Nobody's aware of .photographer, and so if somebody buys one and puts a site up there, who's responsible for making sure that that's seen as a legitimate thing? And I think it's a shared responsibility, and I'll tell you why I think that. A lot of folks would suggest that the registry operator is responsible for making these things known, okay? So the registry operator is charging $10 for one of these things to a registrar, okay? Customer acquisition in the domain name business is a $50 proposition, okay? So for the registry, which out of that $10 has to actually do the work of the registry, there isn't enough money there to actually do a lot of advertising. We historically rely on the registrars, on TH actually, to get the word out to their customer base that the domain is available, that it's legitimate, and so forth. I mean, we do all the security around the TLD. We make sure it's 100% available. You know, we make sure that all the stuff that you just expect to have be true, like 100% availability, like universal availability all over the planet, like security precautions, like operations consistent with global standards, all of that stuff that you don't even have to think about because you don't even think about registries. That costs money to do, and that's where we focus the $10 that we charge, is making sure that that job is done flawlessly all the time. Registrars can help with the awareness, but what's really important is for the registrants, the people that buy the domain names, to start using them in advertising. And when other people see that one of the leaders in the photography business, for example, has their site in .photography, that will help to catch things on. You'll be seen as an innovator, you'll be seen as a thought leader, you'll be seen as out in front. Those are the benefits of doing it first. But like every leader, you're going to take a few arrows in the back, right? There are going to be some people who may not see that as a legitimate thing. But over time, you know, as I said, over the next 5 years or so, it's going to be clear that these all are here to stay. Internet visitors are going to see a wide range of top-level domains they never saw before, like photography, like info, like red, like all these other ones, and they're going to start seeing them as, okay, I guess that's okay. What's harder is, I think, the IDNs, because I think people are going to be instantly a little suspicious about seeing a top-level domain in a different script in English. They're going to wonder about that. And again, it's the mission, I think, of the folks who are going to use those things, who are trying to penetrate those markets, who are trying to serve folks that aren't going to get the ASCII stuff, to continue to work that in their advertising, in their messaging, in their emails, in their publicity, and all of that stuff, to help establish it as, hey, this is okay. You know, this is not only okay, this is great, and you should feel comfortable going there. But that's a great question. There's actually two great questions.
Sorry, I'll just add one real quick point, which is related to the point on IDNs. Is I mentioned about one of the goals of this new GTLT program is about innovation. If we're thinking about our traditional usage of URLs today and apply it to something new, then we're putting ourselves in a box. We should be thinking out of the box and how do we use it. Now, for example, we'll be thinking, oh yeah, how do we do this advertising thing, you know? Put so much money out there to advertise and then nobody actually uses it. Now, if you're using a new top-level domain or an IDN, do you really think marketing by buying advertising space might be the way to do it? Or perhaps word of mouth might be the best option. If you're in like .photographer, get a few really well-known photographers and give them the website, let them use it. Then the rest of the photography community would rush into it straight away. Why? All these beautiful photos on .photographer are all popping up, everyone's sharing it. Then for some reason you pick it up very quickly. Now the next related point on IDNs is the same. Because if you're talking about IDNs, your target market are people who are not online yet, most of the time. Maybe the Chinese market is a bit different, but let's say if you're like talking about Myanmar or like Vietnam or other countries, your entire market's not online. Are you sure you want to use an online tool to market something for people that's not online? Again, it's something different. You want to think out of that box and then think of a way to market to that target market specifically, which is why I mentioned about innovation and the need to think about that space. And once it works, it's gonna take off very, very quickly because it's something that works specifically for that niche market that you have. So I think that is something that I'm trying to push for you guys to think about, which is really the point of innovation.
Sure. We'll open. We still got more time, and I think there are other ladies who got questions for our great panelists. You want to say something? No, really? In French? Well, she can speak excellent French. Yeah, sure. Okay. I think we've about end of our discussion, and I think we have a great honor to have all the panelists here, and I just want to give each of you like 3 minutes to suggestion to us, to the entrepreneurs here, to the startups here, and to the media people over here. Just each of you 3 minutes.
Testing. Okay. So I would just return to one of the comments I made earlier. You guys are all trying to start companies that are great ideas, that's an innovative service that nobody else is providing. So the top level domain you use is important, but it's like a really small piece of the total. Pick out the name you want for your business, and then go and look for your top level domain. As you grow up, and you may very well grow up enough in the next 3 years while we're waiting for the whole process to grind to a conclusion, you may want a .brand because that something that's really working well at scale here and in a few other places is going to go global and be an awesome success, and you'll want to protect that intellectual property everywhere. And one of the best ways to do that is just get your name as a top level domain. If you're small still and you're still struggling financially and so forth, then work with the tools that you have. These new top-level domains, there's plenty of them. There's a wide range of things, and there's highly likely to be something that's very specific to you. And if there isn't, you can use a .info because that's pretty generic. But really, don't fall into the trap of I need something that I can get in .com for a name, because it just makes me ill when I see those kinds of things. Okay.
Thank you. I think I will just repeat what I mentioned a little bit just now, which is the 3 things that's the goal of the program, which is competition, choice, and innovation. And think about how this space, in terms of new generic top-level domains or the expansion of the domain name space, what are the things that could avail for you that can be tools for you to do your business better? And it's one of the many tools on the internet that is expanding. So think about this area and keep up to date with it, because I think we are no longer talking about like 10 years, 15 years ago, everyone should have an email, everyone should have a website. These are already taken for granted. You have to have an email. What are you talking about? You mean you have a snail mail, people should write to you and email and send it on post? People don't do that anymore. There's the same thing for websites. If you want people to get information about your business, you have to have a website somewhere. Now, in this space that's continually evolving, expanding, keep up to date with what the various developments are. And I'll be happy to share with you my name card after this to give you the relevant news. It's very important to keep up to date with it, because when you're thinking of starting a business, you want to be at the forefront rather than be following the trend that's been, people have already succeeded. Then you're at the back of the product life cycle. So look at what the trends are and then ride the waves of the new trends before they get picked up. That's something I think I want to share. Thank you.
Sure. 3 minutes. Ching, you're
okay. I'll do my first 3 minutes in English and then the next. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just following what Jiarong just shared. I think it's important. It's really great that you both can, spend a few days here, and please get to know Jiarong more by adding him on Facebook or Twitter, or get his car and call him in the middle of the night. I have a question on ICANN registration policy. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, they're just great people here. It's just for us in the business for many years. I think ICANN is getting really getting better. So before it's not many people understand what the community needs here in this particular region. Not to mention that people speak Mandarin that we can directly talk to. So that's excellent. That's one. And I'm going to switch to Mandarin for
1 minute.
Okay. 所以其实我觉得呢，就是刚刚在这个 讲的时候，我们没有特别说，刚刚 Roland 跟嘉荣可能特别大概有部分的提到说，这个可能我们也刚刚的问题里头有跟 SEO 有关系的。那当然，这 SEO 我觉得这个在为什么结语提到这个？我觉得今天有点意犹未尽的部分，就是到底怎么去命名，就是 naming second level branding your company at the second level。就是我刚刚在路上海过来的时候，跟几位讲者分享，说在台湾的路上，甚至在报纸上或者在巴士上，我只是来的时候刚刚才看到一个，这个巴士公司叫国花运通。就是国家的国，花朵的花，国花运通这个，然后它是一个，这就是一个 bus， 一个 tour bus， 它的那个名字就是它的等于是网域名称是 flowernation-bustour.com.tw， 就是还是有这样子的取名的方法。我发现还有很多，尤其是政府机关，常常在这个网域名称前面要加一个 i 或者是 e。这种东西这么多年来还是有这样的问题在这边，或者是使用的习惯跟这个是从一开始就把 SEO 就做烂掉，就是这个是马上会做烂。那当然命名这一方面就是讲说，可能现在 .com 的名字真的越来越少，所以我们现在既然有这么多选项新的选项，从 info 到 cafe 到这么多的，还有我们各种不同的颜色red。Blue, pink, green, black， 各种各样的颜色，各种各样的职业的选项，各种各样的区域从台北到东京到纽约、伦敦，各种各样的，其实有很多甚至从域名的本身，你可以想到很多新的生意、新的 business 是在上面，不论你是经营一家小的什么内容农场，或者是说挂几张自己的画。挂几张自己的觉得不错的文章放在上面，或者是像我们这个ZUUQ，我们最强调的，希望说一注册名字就能用，就把你现有的这个目前的这个网站本身用不同的名字再把它串联起来。我最后想讲的就是说，网域名称本身呢，它其实在过去这么多年来，可能我们就是把它当成一个 destination， 它是一个目的地，所以你要从让别人去看到你这个目的地，他就去访问你这样的一个网域名称嘛。但是我们ZUUQ这边想要做的一件事情很重要，是把它不是一个目的地，而是帮一个目的地开很多门，或者是开很多条道路进去。就不论是用ZUUQ Life 或者ZUUQ Help， 用不同的方式能够达到这样的目的地，这才是我们在下一代，在下一个世代，我们觉得做这个。一个服务，一个新世代的网域名称的服务，来跟目前现有的做一个不同的区别。我们那天常常在讲，不好意思，最后30秒，就是说，其实现在在做服务啦，做这个网络的服务，其实不是变多，是我们 CTO 讲的嘛。现在这个做服务不是越来越加多，是越来越怎么做好减法，把这个减法。那其实ZUUQ一直强调就是减法。让这个网域注册一起来，就是所谓一起来，就是早上一起来，一杯咖啡，突然嘣嘣，心里的电灯泡亮了，觉得今天要注册一个什么名字，然后就上ZUUQ把它注册起来，然后过1个月，突然就以100倍的价格把它卖掉，心里就觉得很爽，这样子，好吧？祝福大家域名注册之路都这个丰收，好不好？
好，我再这样说 ，I'm going to last but not least， 既然那个乔都已经讲这样子，那其实我们今天大概准备了一些小小的礼物。其实大家现在就这个时刻，你只要上这个 ZUUQ.com， 那你搜寻一下你自己的名字，或者自己的服务的名字或产品的名字，你可以看到有一个域名是以0块钱要送给大家的。那基本上这个消息，请你自己用，或跟你好朋友讲就好。所以你可以马上体验 ，You can just buy .shop on ZUUQ right now。For $0, so you could get an experience of that if you want to, operate a store right away by redirecting the URL to your, like your eBay, your TW, Yahoo bid account or something. 所以现在其实你就可以或回去，你说手机可能看不方便，你就回去可以试着去注册点 shop 这样子的网址。刚才旁边有 Shopline 嘛？所以你可以看看 Shopline 点 Shop 现在会连到哪里去 ？OK， 好，那我们今天大概 well, we still got one more question or comment.
Just one. One more. We are planning to have more promotion or surprise for you, including info, the red, the blue. So if you have interest about this TLD, please come to ZUUQ.com very often, or when you have time, or when you wake up, have a coffee, just jump up and check. We'll have surprise sometimes, some every day or each week.
Every morning at 8 o'clock.
Okay, TH guaranteed that. So, okay, so just let you know. So, welcome to ZUUQ.com. Thank you.
So let's give another round of applause to our great panelists and every one of you. Thanks for your time. So we'll be having this room until 4, so you could still use the space to engage with the panelists, or you just want to, grab some fresh air outside in this space. Okay, sure. Thanks.
你就跟我们讲。